Today on Dance Imparts, we have Yanaëlle Thiran. Yanaëlle Thiran is a London-based Belgian dance artist whose practice consists teaching, making, and performing works across a range of different settings. She recently created an online dance performance and is now editing her first screen dance work. She is also a co-founder and co-director of company Concentric, which we will delve deep when we will be talking to her. So I'm really excited for you guys to join on this conversation and really listen to her story, her experience, and what all she faced in the dance industry and how she has co-founded her company Concentric. So I'm really excited for you guys to see. Hi, Anel.
Hey Carol,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Still being feeling a bit floaty after our meditation, but good. Yeah. So I just wanted to dive in straight away. Yeah. So how did it all started? Like, how did your dance journey begin?
That was a long time ago. I think I must have been like 4 years old. And I remember quite vividly like walking past the dance studio just randomly with my family. And then I just saw that group of people, I think they were stood in a circle and doing some kind of movement together. And I was like, wow, that looks nice. I wish I could be in. And then also just coming across some people dancing on TV. And then I was so fascinated by them spinning. And I was like, I want to learn how to spin. I want to learn how to dance. And then I just asked my mom, and she was like, well, yeah, maybe next year, like maybe when you start primary school, and we can sign you up for a dance class. And that's how it started. So I went to my first dance class, and I was like 5.5, and I really enjoyed it, and I asked to go back and again and again.
And again, what was the style that you started with?
So I started with creative dance, actually. It was quite open and quite improv based. So I remember that the teacher would like bring in some leaves that had fallen on the ground in the autumn, and then she would like show us the shapes, and we would try and mimic the shapes with our bodies. So it was a very kind of playful and creative class in my first year of dance classes. And then after that, I moved to more, say, set techniques like ballet and then modern jazz. But my very first year was totally creative, and I guess we could call it contemporary as well.
That is so what? What? Because like it was completely different for me. Like my first was Kathak, so it was all structured and everything. And I'm so jealous with like being open to, the your first tips in the uh, dance world was creative and improvisation and all. That's so beautiful. And being a child, you're anyway so innovative and imaginative. So, damn, that's so cool. Yeah. Wow. And this was back in Belgium.
Yes, that was back in Belgium. So it was a local dance school in almost in my hometown, like really, really close to it. And yeah, I went there from the age of 5 all the way through to 17 with different teachers and doing different classes there. But it was like my local dance school. Yeah.
So it was like after school thing, after like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think they mostly had and then also I think they had some classes on Saturdays and Sundays too. And I started with just, one class a week, one afternoon a week after school. And then I started doing more and more.
that's amazing. That's really cool. So like when did you like the idea of just dance to as a hobby shifted to, oh, I would love to pursue it.
Well, I think there's been quite a bit of back and forth between dance as a hobby and maybe it can. I can't hide that. I think when I was like 6 or 7 doing my first ballet classes, I was like, I want to be a ballerina. I was so fascinated by
Yeah.
it. And then I was like, no, it's never going to happen. basically as a teenager, I had a phase where I was very much like, I really love doing this, but it's maybe not my thing in terms of ballet, at least. Like, I don't have great feet for ballet. I don't have a huge turnout. So that's when I thought, well, to contemporary as well. And yeah, and then around the age of like 15, 16, I was like, well, actually, I kind of really want to do this. And so that's when I started kind of seriously considering going into higher education and a conservatoire training for dance. But yeah, it kind of went on and off between it being a dream and then coming to a more realistic project to actually go to auditions and make it happen.
So it was very common for people to go to dance conservatoire, music conservatoire, and all in Belgium.
No, not really. So the thing is, in Belgium, we have mainly parts, the dance school attached to the dance company Rosas in Brussels. And the thing is, their program doesn't start every year. So they start with a cohort of students, and then those same students move on to second year, but they don't take anyone in the first year. So you had to be in the, kind of the right year to apply at the school. And then there's another school in Antwerp in the northern part of the country. But for me, the dream was both to study dance and to go abroad and to learn languages. So I didn't even consider the Belgian dance schools. I was immediately looking out into the Netherlands and the UK, where I knew I had heard of friends and former teachers as well who trained there.
Okay, so you had like a a good knowledge of where, like where you want to go in a way. And it was always contemporary, like you wanted to go in contemporary?
Yeah, mostly. So that's because, so when I was 13 to 17 years old, I was in pre-vocational training. So at my secondary school, I had dance as my optional subject, around 10 hours per week. So it was quite intense. We didn't have PE classes. We would just go into the dance studio. And that pre-vocational course led some of the graduates, not all of them, but some of them, to then audition and go on training into those schools like London Contemporary Dance School in the UK, Artes in the Netherlands, or the Amsterdam Performing Arts as well. So yeah, several graduates that I knew of, because I saw their pictures on the walls, had been onto these schools, as well as my teachers, obviously. So that's mostly how I got to know about the options for studies in contemporary dance.
It's really cool because like in our school it was very different. It was no Western dance, basically. Western dance was looked down upon. It was only Indian classical dance. So I'm just curious, like how was in school when you were, how was dance as a subject in school? I think that's my question. Like, was it technique and more improvisation? How was it structured?
Yeah, so it had two different sections in a way. So the dance department, if you like, had a ballet section and contemporary section. And I initially auditioned for the ballet one, but then because I had done very, very little point work and my feet just weren't strong enough, I switched into contemporary. And so what we had was, I think, something like 4 contemporary classes per week and maybe 3 ballet classes. And within the contemporary classes, some teachers gave us more of a technique class, like just set exercises, and others would bring in a little bit of yoga for our conditioning as well, to strengthen a little bit, and then some improv tasks. And also every year we got to perform either on a stage or in another venue. We once performed in a museum, actually, and that's how we got really creative as well in making some movement sequences for the performance, or just responding to improvisation tasks from the teachers, who would then set the choreography or set the frame for the performance with us. So I would say it was a really nice mixture of both technique, obviously, and then more creative projects and opportunities. Yeah.
Wow, it's like you are already creative yourself, and then you had that, support, and then your background and it was also so creative that makes complete sense that you're, choreographer and maker and performer. Like it nicely blends into it. Makes so much sense to me now. Yeah. So how was the? It's interesting that in school also you had to audition for ballet and contemporary. So if a person wants to study dance, they wouldn't be able to study if they won't get selected.
Well, yeah, yes and no. There were relatively few candidates. It's always been quite a small group of students who choose dance and in that school. Partly because I would say some parents are a bit worried that if their child graduates and has done dance but not any like English classes or hasn't studied science or maths as much, they might not be as well prepared for university. So with the certificate of secondary education that I got, I was able to go to any university in Belgium or abroad, but the reality of the training that I had was that I had fewer hours of science, maths, foreign languages. So for me, I had to do English classes after school because they didn't fit in my schedule at school because of the dance classes. So yeah, in terms of like making it work for the students, it was a little bit challenging to get that balance right. But then those who did want to apply and to do that course were generally really welcomed. And I don't think the selection was ever like really harsh because they had capacity to have whoever wanted to apply and had the basic skills required. So yeah, it felt very welcoming, and I actually didn't do the official audition day, but I used their summer workshop as an audition. So for a week I took classes with them in the summer holidays, and then that's how they said at the end of the week, okay, yeah, we see how you're working and you can join in September.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you decided to go to London Contemporary, like straight away. That was your goal.
Yeah, straight
Yeah.
away. So I did audition for 4 schools, 2 in the Netherlands and 2 in the UK.
Mm.
And I first got on the waiting list for London Contemporary Dance School, but I got offered a place in Leeds at Northern School of Contemporary Dance, where I had really enjoyed the audition. I remember there was an improv session as part of the audition, and I was really in the flow, like I was
Yeah.
really, really loving it. And then, yeah, they offered me a place. So I said yes. But then I think a month or so later, I heard from London Contemporary Dance School that I had been moved up from the waiting list and that they could offer me a place. So I transferred in a way. I decided to come to London partly because of location, because it was just a 2-hour train ride from Brussels, almost my hometown, and also because it has so much to offer in terms of theatres, galleries, culture in general is just so vibrant there.
Yeah.
And as I said, a few of my teachers had trained there too. So I was really looking up at the website going like, whoa, this is the place to be.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a chance to be there, which felt, yeah, really amazing.
Yeah. So you said that you were learning English after school. So was it like before going to the university, you had some time to learn English?
Yeah, that's right. So actually, even before auditioning for the dance schools that I was looking at and very interested in, I knew that I would also need to take an English test as a kind of basic requirement to enter. And in Belgium, it's important to mention that we've got Dutch, French, and German as official languages. So my first language is French, and at school I had Dutch as a foreign language. So I could have chosen English, but I was in learning Dutch, and that's why I went on to, after school English lessons to then prepare for the test, take the English test, and then go on and do the dance auditions.
Yeah. Because I like for us international students, we do need like certain IELTS score to get into the university. Was it something for you too?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it was like, was it 6.5, I think, out of 9 at the IELTS?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. It was that. Oh,
Yeah.
that was interesting for me. But yeah. It's pretty daunting in a way, like. But is Belgium in Belgium or Brussels? Brussels is more your hometown. So is English spoken a lot there?
Well, in a way, yes, because you've got quite a lot of the EU institutions there in Brussels. And in terms of population, I think it's a close call, but it's maybe something like 60% French speaking, 40% speaking Flemish, and then obviously lots of international workers who also come there mainly to work with the EU.
Mm.
So if you go into the city, like what I most love about the train line going there from my hometown is that you first get the announcements in French because you're in the French speaking part of the
Yeah.
country. And then it switches to Flemish, and then you get both when you're in Brussels. So there's this sense of like multiculturalism in a way, and both languages are there all the time.
I think you have told me this before. I think while I was walking in the campus or something, because I remember you telling us, and I was like, that's really cool. Yeah, so
Yeah,
like how many languages can you speak then? Because I'm sure you can understand so many as well.
well, I can't really speak all five actively right now, but I've learned five languages. So first one is
Ah,
obviously French,
yeah,
Dutch or Flemish. English was my third language.
yeah,
And then I moved to Italy for another year after I graduated from the place. So I learned Italian there.
yeah.
And my fifth one that I'm learning is German.
Deutsch. I
Yeah.
had Deutsch as my subject in high school, but I have no idea right now what it was. I've lost everything. I just know the numbers and I know alphabets. I know some here and there words, but it's a difficult language, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah, the structure of it is the hardest languages I've learned so far. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So tell me, I'm really excited. So I'm just like going like um so you learned English and then you moved up uh, on the waiting list to be selected for the London Contemporary. So then how was it like the whole university life, doing what you really wanted to do? How was
Yeah, it was a crazy time. I think my suitcase being like, yep, this is exactly what I want to do, but I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time. I think, yeah, I was very much going there to have an experience, to learn lots, and kind of to never go back as well, even though it's not very far. Like Belgium and the UK are, as I said, really easily connected. But I had that sense of now I'm moving and let's start a new chapter. And obviously lots of other international students
it?
were there. So I had an Italian flatmate, an American flatmate, and a British flatmate at the beginning. And they really helped me with my English as well, because obviously their English was amazing. Mine was not that great at the time. I remember a first kind of social dinner with a few other students, and I was just kind of, you know, when the conversation is kind of flying across the table and you're just trying to follow.
Yeah.
And I knew what was going on. And then we ended up going out all together. And one of my friends gave me her driving license to show that I was over 18, but at the time I was 17. I did not get what was going on. I was just like, yeah, I'll follow. And then they took me into that club, and like, it was really nice, but I just had no idea where I was going, and ended up making very good friends.
That's amazing. You were 17 when you came to London. So, oh, sorry, I missed this thing, but how were your parents supportive for you to choose dance for a career and everything?
Yeah, I mean, they've always kind of seen it as something a bit strange, but really exciting. I guess a bit strange because they're both rather intellectual and they really enjoy the arts and culture, but in terms of sports or being like active physically, they go hiking on holiday, but that's about it. And I guess yeah, quite a very active child. Like I wanted to go and see things. I wanted to move quite a lot. And that maybe wasn't part of what they would have done spontaneously. So they then, yeah, they've always been supportive, but it's not something that they would have gone for. Or, you know, signing me up for dance classes was not something that my mum would have done if I hadn't asked for it. So there was always this sense of I would come with an idea and then they would be like, oh, yeah, no, if you want to, but it would come to them as a surprise some
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah.
That's good that they have been supportive as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. So now you're in the university and you are making new friends and everything. So your dance course was dance only? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, well, there was debate around that. In the first year in particular, we had ballet and contemporary classes every morning,
Mm.
but students were mostly anatomy classes, cultural studies, costume design, so all sorts of things around dance as an art form, but not necessarily physically dancing. And I remember lots of my friends in the first year in particular were finding that a bit frustrating because they had come to London Contemporary Dance School to dance and train as dancers, and they didn't really appreciate the sense of sitting down in lectures as part of the training.
Yeah. And how was it for you? Because but you said that you loved what you were doing because you already always wanted to do that. But what did you think of the course structure then? Yeah.
For me, I think it worked quite well in terms of a balance between being on my legs and being dancing, and then also sitting down and recovering physically, because obviously the technique classes were very intense. I felt like more in the afternoons, which, you know, sometimes we had improv classes that were a bit more relaxed, or like the Alexander technique, which was also a way of kind of reconnecting with posture. So there was a physical element to it, but different. And I felt like that allowed me to recover a little bit from the mornings and process different kinds of information. And I was, yeah, I guess I was there like a sponge, really, trying to absorb everything I could.
Yeah.
The time, maybe because I was also a bit younger than some of the other students, I didn't even think of, you know, having a voice and talking about how I thought the course should be, because I was very much there as a receiver, there to get everything I was offered, and maybe not in this critical position yet.
Yeah, makes sense because I was the same, coming here, everything is different, and then you're
Yeah,
just like, okay, yes, yes, okay, whatever, okay, yeah, okay, just okay. It's like that. It's not like, but I want this. But also at that age, you are also trying to find out who exactly you are and as a person, as a dancer, and everything, which makes sense. Yeah, I can definitely like relate with that. Um, so how like the whole 3 years, that was the first year. Second year you were more relaxed, or was it?
yeah, second year was really good because you were in the flow of it already. You had English, you were more able to speak and connect with people. You had really nice creative projects as well. There was a course called Music and Choreography, where we had to pick a piece of music and just choreograph a very short piece, about 3 or 4 minutes to it. But that was the key project of the year. And I worked together with my friend Ruby Embley on this project.
Mm.
And it was the starting point of a piece that we then extended several times over 3 or 4 years. So yeah, second year really kind of started the sort of creative and more personal process, I think. Whereas first year was more about laying the foundations for technique and all sorts of things around being a dance artist. Second year was kind of like, now you're there, what do you do? Like, what is your voice? What kind of music do you want to select and work with?
Oh, and third year was probably the dissertation year. So how was that for you? Because like you recently learned English to speak and everything, and you started figuring yourself out and social and everything. But writing dissertation, like how was your marking thing in that? Was it like more practical or more dissertation work?
Yeah, there were options. So we could do a fully written work or a practical and a written work. And by that time, I was actually fluent, I would say. I guess because I learned English very much from this an academic reading perspective, the written work was no problem at all for me because it was part of the preparation for the IELTS as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess funnily enough, I sometimes also call myself an intellectual dancer because I come from this family of very intellectual parents. And there's a strong culture of reading and thinking and debating around the table. Like whenever I go back to Belgium, we have these long debates about arts, anything. And I think that really kind of opened my mind and helped me get into the more academic side of the course. But then again, London Contemporary Dance School is validated by the University of Kent, but it's not a university itself. So the standards and the requirements in terms of writing were not what they would have been if I had been at a university as such. So I would guess in that sense, it was easier, especially for us foreign students.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so would you want to talk about your dissertation or no?
Yeah, I want to tell you an anecdote about it because I had written so much and transcribed really, really long interviews that at the end it looked really thick because I had all of the interview transcripts. That kind of stacked up at the end of the actual dissertation. And then when we left dance school, we did a big panto on stage at the Place Theatre, kind of making fun of the teachers and, you know, just highlighting a few things from our time there. And in the panto, my part in the piece was to bring this massive pile of papers, like the dissertation, and kind of hand it in to the audience in a way. And yeah, the whole year group kind of made fun of that, but also really accepted me as I was, like the kind of a little bit more brainy dancer. And it was really fun that they suggested doing that in the panto, and I was like, okay, that's my role. I'm gonna bring in the super bulky dissertation.
That's cool though. It might be very relieving. Is that the word? Yeah, to actually like physically see that dissertation like that thick and everything, and then releasing it to the audience basically. Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. So I know that you have done foundation course after that, the teaching course. So was it just after that?
Yeah, so that was a year after when I graduated. I went to Italy and then did this one-year training program at Art Factory International in Bologna. And at the time, it was still quite small. It was just one group of 15 dancers. So it felt like being in a small company almost, just taking classes together, doing some projects. And I had a really great time there. Again, culturally, Italy was such a great place to be. I could just hop on a train, go and visit Venice, hop on a train, go and see some art in Florence. So it was really interesting to both in terms of like sightseeing and in terms of connecting with the local community in Bologna. I started singing in 2 choirs there, an international community choir, which was really great, met people from different countries there. And then they were like, oh, you dance. Oh, why don't you make a dance piece to one of our songs? And then you could perform it with us. But then, really sadly, it rained on the day when I was supposed to perform my solo with the choir. So it never happened because then I flew back to Belgium. And it was really sad. But then somehow it had planted a seed because a few years later, a British choir invited me to also make some solo pieces and perform them with them. And I did. And that was kind of the birth of another project, thanks to something that had, you know, not happened before, but had been planned before.
Yeah, Pretty cool, because it seems like music and dance, well, it's anyway kind of has relation and everything, but in your life it keeps coming that you need to work with music. Like before also you talked, was it in school that you had to make performance on a music, or was it in uni as well? So it
Yeah.
keeps coming back to that, and then you singing. I didn't know you sang. Like you sing.
Well, I used to. I did musical theatre classes growing up. So every year we had a big musical, and I used to sing quite a lot then.
Yeah.
And for several years, yeah, 4 years, I think. But I guess I stopped when I started freelancing and tried to focus my energies on getting jobs and teaching dance and making pieces. And I hope that there will be a point, maybe in a few years' times, where I will feel a little bit more settled in my practice as a freelance artist. And I'll be like, right, now I can have a hobby again and I'm going to go and sing.
It's funny because even since the coronavirus pandemic hit us, I started learning music. And my teacher is back in India, but it's like she's a Western teacher, but she's more about, I'll guide you to find your own voice and everything. I'm doing those exercises and all, and it's so blissful. When I do those exercises, I feel like I feel very Zen mode in a way. Like it's like such a therapy to do that. It's like you're producing the sound, you're making your own music. It's pretty cool. And it's funny that you also do that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I would add that as well as feeling your voice, obviously, and the air through your body, in choirs, there's that really powerful sense of being one voice in a group of, I don't know, 60, 70 people. And all of these harmonies, I feel are really, like that's something that I felt really strongly when singing, but also when dancing kind of in the middle of this half circle of singers.
Yeah.
Like that was so strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to experience that. Live music and dancing is something else, I believe. Yeah. I
Mm.
think the only live, well, not only, but the performance that stuck with me was The Rising. It's a Heather Waldron company. I don't know if you are aware of her. She's a Southwest based choreographer. I think she was graduated from London Contemporary as well. And oh my God, she made like live music. Elaine dances, Elaine dances. Um,
Yes,
the
yeah,
twins. So one of the
yeah.
twins was also a dancer in her company, and
Wow.
I would recommend so much. Like, oh, it's the music they made is so blissful. I actually got CD for myself. Like I ordered the CD, but I tried to copy the music on my laptop, but then I effed up the whole situation with the CD, and now my CD is not playing and the music is not in my laptop. So I might order one more because it's so beautiful, the songs they made, and it was such a beautiful feeling, and it was a like her work really represents community. Even if it's not about community, you can actually feel the power of community in her like work. So I would definitely recommend
Mm,
her. She was one of our lecturer in Plymouth University.
right.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, back to you. So setting company. No. Wait. First, you went to Italy. Then what happened?
Then, so at the end of my year in Italy, there was a big question mark as to where to go and what's next. The decision didn't actually come from me because I had been living with my boyfriend for 2 years at the time, and then he got the opportunity to come back to London and do a PhD. So I was like, oh, well, then we're moving back to London. At first, I was a bit disappointed because having lived in one country and then another, I was like, let's move to a third country, let's go somewhere else. And then going back to London was kind of like, oh, return. Okay, so then what am I going to be able to do there? Should I continue training and studying? How am I going to find work? And so I knew that I probably was going to want to teach, or at least start working as a teaching assistant again, which I had done as a student.
Mm.
So I started applying for jobs as dance teaching assistant and then later on teacher. And I started my diploma in dance teaching and learning, which is a course that used to be taught at Trinity Laban, but that they're now stopping to deliver. It still exists. The qualification is still available from other conservatoires, but Laban will no longer have it, sadly. So it was a part-time course, and it took quite a lot of commitment. It was basically just coming in a few days a year, literally just having a few intensive modules coming in on a Saturday and on a Sunday, and then just doing lots of reading, lots of assignments, which included obviously the practice of teaching and reflecting on it and watching other teachers, so observations and practice. And so that was a journey that took me 3 years to complete, while also setting up my own projects, starting to make, at the beginning, really small solo pieces, again, from my local choir. They invited me to make a piece, and I was like, yes, I will be there. And then I applied with that solo for a couple more performance platforms, and then it picked up a little bit, and then that gave me confidence to then make a duet and then make another piece. And it started unfolding, yeah, over those years, so 2017, 2018, really.
That's interesting. Like, you never know what can trigger different things too, and yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know because like I know you, and you are my another MA student friend. You told me before that you met Shivangi in Trinity Laban as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell the story of Company Concentric.
Yeah. So when I first met Shivangi, I think that was at a yoga class at Laban. So she was on the graduate diploma in dance studies, and I was on the diploma in dance teaching, and both of us were free. I think it was like a Friday lunchtime class or something like that. And we used to go and then eventually had lunch together after class. And I work at Siobhan Davies Studios, where we did like a work in progress sharing. So I was facilitating it and just asking the audience to ask questions and comment on the performances. And Shivangi was performing a solo. And I saw her work and I was really impressed. And I was like, wow, I'd love to work with her, someday, somehow. And then a few months later, I saw a call out for Resolution Festival, the Festival of New Choreography at the place. And I thought, well, let's ask Shivangi if she wants to make a piece with me. I didn't know what the piece would be about or anything. I was just really keen to work with her because I had seen her work. And that's how it started. So then we got together in a studio at Laban at the end of the summer. We just started putting some ideas together, filmed that, sent it to the place, and then got programmed that Resolution and had to make the piece and stage it. So how do you go about that when you don't have money, you don't have a studio, you don't have resources, you just don't know. So obviously we could use the studios at Laban, but neither of us were on the full-time program, so we weren't really entitled to book spaces directly. And then there was a community center where I taught that also offered us to just rehearse there in their space for free. And so we kind of found our way through rehearsal spaces in London, which can be awfully expensive, usually. And then how do you find collaborators as well? So I was like, oh, what about costumes? What about lighting and all that? I can't do all of that by myself. So the collaborators speed dating in that season, and especially for the artists performing at Resolution. And so I went there and it was really intense. You had to speak to like all of the people in the room in 5-minute slots and then tell them, right, so my name is Yanaëlle, I'm making a piece called Swapping Shadows and the concept is blah, 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 and what do you do? And then they were like, yeah, so I'm a costume designer, I've just graduated and these are some pieces I've made. I was like, wait, costume designer, just graduated. I really like what you do. What's your name? Akshi. And I work with Sally. We've just graduated together. So she's a set designer and I'm a costume designer. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe I'll come back to you later. And then continued like the mad rush, hopping around to all of these musicians, all of these people. And I was like, whoa. And then at the end, I did come back to Akshi and Sally. And I was like, wait, you guys had a portfolio with you? Can I see that? And yeah, they had brought lots of images of works they had done at uni. They had just graduated. And then I was like, yeah, could we work together? Like, I don't have a budget or anything, but it'd be great to work with you guys. And they agreed. They were very much up for it to just develop their portfolio. And that's already 4 members of Company Concentric that you have gathered around the project. We didn't have the name yet at the time. But yeah, so we started.
Goosebumps. I was like, damn. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that concept of speed dating in a way, using it professionally as well. That's a cool concept. But quite anxiety and stress that you have to sell yourself in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And also that thing of with other artists, and you kind of look up and go, oh wow, yeah, I mean, I could never afford to pay for their designer skills or their music, or, you know, some people in the room were quite experienced as well, and I knew that I didn't have a budget, that I didn't have anything to offer other than ideas and a lot of energy. And sometimes that's enough to draw people in and go, well, you know what, we can try that thing and make it work. And yeah, no, I thought the concept of the speed dating was really quite tough, but also very much worth it. Yeah.
I this reminds me of, remember when we were going to London to Siobhan Davis' place to watch that film, and you asked me on the train that, so what do you do, Carol? And I was like, shit. What do I do? What? Who am I? And I could actually feel that. Like, still, I was like, oh my God, that day I couldn't, sell myself in a way. So I think you need to have that paragraph ready. You need to have those things ready to say to people in a way, in most human possible, not like being like, oh, and this, not like speed dating always. It's like, it's very important to have that things ready, even if you're trying to figure yourself out, I guess, because like for you also at that time, you were like, you you didn't have that mindset which you have now because you have had that much experience. So how was it like, how did you channel your confidence in a way? Because
Yeah, that's a really big question. I think for me, it would be really hard to ready, just because the paragraph would change all the time. I feel like I mostly take it as a one project at a time type of thing. So in that speed dating, I was there for a very specific piece, the resolution piece that I was just starting to create. And it helped me be very specific, because I could say immediately, it's a duet, it's myself, I'm a contemporary dancer, and Shivangi, whose background is in Bharatanatyam. We're just the 2 of us on stage, so the stage will be quite bare, but we're trying to have a dialogue between our 2 dance forms. And at the time, I had already found a part of the music, so I could also give people a little bit of a sense of the mood. But beyond that, I would not have been able to say much, because, yeah, I had graduated, and that was my first kind of bigger piece of work. So I think for me, the easiest thing and the most authentic thing as well is to just talk about what I'm doing in the present, like, what is it that I'm working on right now? And I'll just talk about this project, but that means that I'll be able to be very specific in what it is, who I'm working with, where it's gonna go, or where I'm hoping it might go. And that gives people something very tangible that they can get, or at least they can feel my energy and the way I'm talking about it. And I feel like that might give them a better hook than just trying to say, what do I do? But that would be really wide. That sometimes I do this and sometimes I do that, and it might not fit in a way in the format of this kind of quick fire speed dating. Yeah. I'm just noticing that it's really dark around me. I might just open the curtains.
Yeah, go for
I'll
it.
be
Go
back
for
in a
it.
second.
No
No, I
worries.
can't see you. Great. Ah, that's better.
I saw the shadow and then I was thinking of swapping shadows, which I did
Uh,
see. Yeah, it was really beautiful piece. I didn't see the one with the cloth. I couldn't make it, unfortunately, but I saw the swapping shadow. It was pretty cool.
yeah.
I love the minimalism as well, the costumes, and and I love that you both spoke in it as well. Like you had your own voice recordings in the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was another. It added another layer to it as well, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. Yeah. So you had now four members of your team of your company, and then how did it develop from there? Did you perform in Resolution? And
Yeah, so that's what we did. We performed in Resolution in January, and then actually in parallel, but not as part of the same project, I was also speaking to some musicians at Trinity Laban, and then one of them, a pianist, was like, hey, one of my friends in the piano course is really interested in working with dancers and improvising. Is that something you'd like to do? Me working with a musician and improvising, yes. So I was like, yeah, just give me her contact and we'll get in touch. And then this pianist is Michaela, who is now our musician in Company Concentric. And so I remember just meeting her. It was an early December, like it was already really dark outside, really cold. And then we just walk into Trinity Laban, like the music side of the conservatoire. And I love, like every time I walk in there, it's just the most amazing thing because you hear music from all of the different rooms. Like you've got students practicing everywhere and you're just in that sound bath in a way, and you just walk through it like with your ears wide open. And then she took me into a room like quite small and she was like, okay, we'll just play. And she started playing and I started moving, and we went on for like an hour or so, just improvising, bouncing off each other. And at first I was very much just like listening and responding to it, because most of the times that's what I would do. But then she encouraged me to lead as well. And sometimes she wouldn't play much and she would just kind of take it off of me, which was very different, because up till that point, I had been very drawn by music and inspired by music, but I had never thought, look, I can make music or I can inspire the musician myself. So that started, and then we kept meeting. We did a few improvised performances as well. So we would just practice improvising and then show up and improvise in a performance setting, which was amazing as well. The most random things, but the most interesting ones happened. And it's not until when I reapplied for Resolution that I actually asked her to make a piece with me in terms of like making a set piece again for Resolution at the place. So it started very much from improvising together, and then even the set piece that we made had improv in it. We couldn't help it, but yeah.
which is so common. Like, of course, like things will go wrong and everything, so you will need to improvise. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how do you come with the name of Company Concentric, and why the name?
Yeah, so that was in October 2018. So it will soon have been 2 years. We're really lucky to be able to take this piece, Swapping Shadows, to a festival in Portugal. And I knew that the festival had been around for over 25 years. It was quite big, so I had applied, but I wasn't too hopeful at first. And then they had replied being like, really sorry, we had an awful lot of applications. Unfortunately, you weren't successful at this time. Anyways, the thing that you get quite a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But then there was this idea of like being on a sort of waiting list again. And I really like waiting lists. They're my thing. Because then randomly in like April or so that year, I emailed them being like, hi, I was just wondering how the programming was going. You mentioned a waiting list, you know, like, are we still on the list in a way? And then they got back to me and were like, well, actually, yeah, we have a slot for you. Would you like to perform on that day, that time? And I was like, yes, I mean, yes. So we got lucky again, and we got to travel to Portugal, perform the piece there. And then we thought, well, we're going to Portugal. We might as well stay there for another day and just visit around for a little bit. So I cancelled the class that I was meant to teach on that day. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to be in Portugal and enjoy my time. And so Shivangi and I were there visiting, sat on this beautiful terrace with a view onto the river that links the city of Almada and Lisbon just on top. And it was just a really glorious day. Sun was shining. She was like, you know what? We should come up with a company name. What do you think? I was like, yeah, what do you think? What kind of name? Well, I don't know, you know, like Company Chameleon in Manchester. We thought that name was really kind of quick and slick and like easy to say. It's just Company Chameleon, like one word. So we were like, oh, cool. And then we started thinking about our work and what was in it. And then anyways, after a while, she goes to a water fountain to refill her water bottle. And then she comes back and she's like, how do you feel about company concentric? And I was like, yeah, I like the letters, I like the sound of it. And you know this concentric pattern in the choreography, like the bit where we go around and around. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And then we thought, yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps again. Yes.
I still remember that moment. She's coming back like, how about company concentric? And I was like,
that's a very interesting word to think about as well, because that's not a very unique, it's a unique name. Like I have never come across concentric, the word. So it's interesting that her mind clicking into concentric, and then you were like, oh, yeah, that's amazing. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess lots of people had commented on the symmetries in the piece and the kind of geometrical aspect of it. And so we were thinking, yeah, concentric circles, like this idea of the geometry. But also something like expanding. So from a small circle in the middle, it can then get bigger and bigger. And the circle also as a symbol of the way we work as a circle of collaborators, rather than calling it Yanaëlle Thiran dance. I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about a group and a circle with a center, which would be a different center for each piece, like a different idea or concept as an anchor point, but then all collaborators around it taking it and pulling it apart from their own perspective. So from a costume designer's perspective, from a musician's perspective, and then expanding the idea for the piece into those wider circles and into the audiences and everyone who engages with it.
It's funny because in the beginning we talked about the ripple effect and the domino effect, and it circled back to company concentric. Yay, we are in the flow. Yeah. Wait, so you said your surname as how did you say pronounced it?
Thiran.
Thiran. Okay, I might have butchered it in the introduction. So
don't worry, I don't usually pronounce it like that. In the UK, I kind of go Thiran, which feels easier for people to pronounce. Because look, with my first name already, like anyone who reads it on paper in the UK is like, Yanaëlle? And I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's a hard one. Like it's challenging for people to pronounce. So I don't mind people.
Yeah, and how do you say Yanaëlle then? It's not Yanaëlle?
Yeah. So usually I would say Yanaëlle. So with a bit more of a in between, which is hard for people to say. Yeah, Yanaëlle.
So how would you say your name?
Yanaëlle Thiran.
Yanaëlle Thiran. Oh, it's very difficult for me.
It's a hard one, right?
It's a surname. Yanaëlle is fine. It's a surname because in Hindi we don't use the that sound, so it's interesting. It's very Urduish. It's different. But yeah, it's like for me, like when I came to UK, even though I had a very English name, I had. Oh wait, are you paused? No. Okay. Okay, then you're fine now because you were like pausing in between. I was like, oh, my internet connection is unstable. Okay. Internet connection. Okay, it's fine.
Stay with us.
Stay with us. So I have an English name, right? But in India, growing up, everyone would, even my parents would say Carol or Carol, like that. and my friends would usually say Carol, and I preferred the sound of Carol. When I
Mhm.
came here, I think probably went to Starbucks, of course, and they write the name, right. So when they asked me my name, I said Carol, and they couldn't understand, and I was like, what? Like, why can't I understand? And then they said, oh, Carol. I was like, first thing I learned when I came to UK was to pronounce my own name.
Wow.
And then I always like said, okay, my name is Carol. So it's a very interesting journey for me as well to, coming to a different place where, yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so back to you. Company concentric. Um, yeah, I was going to ask you about like networking, but you already told like the speed dating, and you always like emailing people and always being up for it, and like, yeah. So I think it came naturally to you. It came smoothly in a way. Do you think? Is it the same?
Yeah, yes and no. I think all moved abroad, I had to become a little bit more extrovert than I was. I think that, 17-year-old me was pretty quiet, never raising her hand in class, like just listening, just being there and being nice. And then when I moved to the UK, obviously I had to make friends, talk to people, just find out where things were, how to deal with life in London. And that kind of pushed me to talk more, to ask questions, and to go towards people a lot more than I used to do back home.
Mm.
And something really simple that I was told then at the time at the place was to just follow your interests. And
Mm.
I think that has been a key point for me throughout all of these opportunities, all of these things that I've been involved in. I get a really strong feeling when I meet someone or read about something that that person or that thing might be just right for me, might be really interesting and really worth doing for me. And if I get that, then I will tell them, go ahead, take that first step. And generally that works smoothly. Whereas
Mm.
if I see something and I'm like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to approach that event or respond to that brief, or
Yeah.
then it's probably best for me to not apply and not do it.
Mm. So it's kind of like following your intuition as well and that interest and not
Yes, yeah,
doubting it and just trying. I think that's what
yeah,
the message is. That's really interesting. Like, yeah, because you do need that. What's the word I'm trying? You need to be brave to follow your intuition as well. That, yeah. So I'm glad that it worked out. It's working out for you, and it's worked. It worked out for you as well. Um, yeah. Let me just quickly look at my notes. So wait, like I know you said that um well, it might be very natural to you. I'm just like asking because I'm curious. Like, even to be that brave to follow into your intuition, have you ever felt a bit uncomfortable that from being an introvert, shy person to being extremely like extroverted and try to brand your thing and everything? So have you ever felt uncomfortable, or you just went with it?
yeah. No, I've definitely felt very self-conscious and very uncomfortable in audition settings, which is why I've not been to many auditions as a professional dancer. 4 or 5, but over something like 4 years.
Mm.
Whereas I know some friends who really go for it and really audition, every few weeks.
Mm.
So right from the start, I knew that that was not going to be my route, because I'm I guess, very critical and not very secure about my technical skills. Again, this thing of not having great feet in ballet, but in all sorts of aspects, it's like, I'm going to be in a class and everyone's legs are going to fly
Yeah.
out. It's going to be amazing. And I'm just going to be like, let me wait for the improv section.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, knowing myself, I've always felt that it was kind of safer for me to go the independent route and to choreograph my own work, because that's a way where I feel I can really show my strength and not feel that that sense of panic or vulnerability in a way that you might feel in a more technical environment. So it's been more demanding in a way, because it meant that I've had to go and look out for all of these platforms, mostly voluntarily, because I'm not a funded artist yet. I think the potentially really disheartening process of auditioning for dance companies and just go to making my own stuff and being in my own shows at first, so that I could, you know, perform and be seen, but in something that I strongly felt comfortable with, because it was mine, or it was a collaboration between myself and others that I really trusted and that I really felt good about. So yeah.
Yeah. So then you wanted to study masters as well. So was it like just after
Yeah.
company concentric, or it took time to realize that, oh, I want to do masters as well?
Yeah, it was basically at that time. Yeah, so making our first few works with the company, getting reviews, reading reviews, and going, oh, okay, I thought I had made a piece that I had put a lot of time and effort into it. It was something. And then I read that actually it could have been further researched. It evoked some things that I never thought it would evoke. So I'm a choreographer, but I don't really, do I? So that sense of like, I needed to go deeper into that. I needed to push myself a little bit more before being able to claim I'm a choreographer. And that's why I started just, you know, Googling, looking up a few options, a few programs. I had been in London for some years, so I was like, do I want to stay here and go into a master's, say, at the place where I already know a lot of the staff? Or do I want to maybe take this opportunity to go sort of branch out in, say, the Southeast, this region? And so, yeah, I was really, really interested in the University of Chichester's website, partly because the course was called MA in Choreography and Professional Practices, and the module called Artist as Producer, and all of these things really drew my attention. I was like, yeah, that's what I need as well. Someone teach me how to fundraise, someone teach me how to, you know, make a website and communicate effectively about this, because if I don't have those skills, I'm not going to be able to take it very far. And so I thought this combination of choreography as a skill and the whole management and production of it were really, really strong when put together. So that's why I applied for the course.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Even artist as producer was one of, like, I didn't like, I had slight idea, but I didn't know what exactly it is. So I was curious for that course as well. I think which was very, very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is your MA experience going on?
It's been fun. It's been challenging, but it's been fun. Obviously, doing this MA in the year where COVID hit will be a memorable experience.
Sure.
But yeah, in all sorts of ways, it's pushed me to, I guess, really reconsider who I work with, who is on scene in the work I make, and why and how. Because I guess until then, the default had been, well, I don't have money to pay dancers, so I'm going to be the dancer in my piece, because I don't care if I'm not paying myself. I'm making an income as a teacher, so I can kind of use my spare time to be the dancer in my own pieces. But then by default, that meant that I wasn't really choosing, you know, in terms of representation and issues that have been widely spoken about recently, and think matter and movements like those, I didn't even think about these things. I was kind of just like, well, default is going to be me. It's going to be this young white women on stage, but why? And so the MA really asked me to poke that and go beyond and think, well, what about an intergenerational piece? What about working with an older dancer, which I did for my January assessment? What about working with a Black dance site-specific dance film that I'm editing now for the body and sight module. And it's been really great to consider stepping out or stepping back in a way and framing choreography no longer for myself because I don't have anyone else, or that's what I thought earlier, but really for the purpose of giving that space to someone who really belongs there and really needs to be there. Maybe I don't need to be there. Maybe what I'm meant to do is just being the facilitator, creating that space and then putting it out there, or being the connection between performing artists and audiences. And yeah, so I've really started investigating what my role was and why as well, why I was there, and what was the best use of my skills in a way.
Yeah, because like I can definitely understand that, because coming from India to like all the performances and Indian classical dance performances, very performative. It's very expressive. It's always about doing, look at me, and yeah, it's like that. But when I came here to and did my bachelor's, I started actually asking questions that, okay, Indian classical, it's very, in a way, look at me, in a way, it's like that. But contemporary is more like human, and it's like you can experiment with so many different things as well. So even for me, it was very interesting, and I'm glad that you had that awakening in a way in the MA course as well, because like I feel like there's still division between that commercial dancing and contemporary dancing. It's a very different situation, because even in maybe I might be wrong, or maybe I'm not that informed, but what I see from this commercial dancing is also very much like, okay, look at me, which is a different message as well. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but in contemporary you can experiment with so many different things as well. So it's interesting. I love that every dance has like their own thing, and in a way, and own boundaries and rules. But I feel like contemporary is quite freeing in a way, because it doesn't have that boundary. Yes. Yeah. That was my rambling there. Yeah, I know that when you were studying masters, you were also teaching. So how did that happen, and how did you make connections to teach in London?
Yeah, so I've been teaching since 20, mostly teaching children at the start, and also sometimes teenagers, or occasionally older people's community dance classes. So I've done a range of things, and I feel like teaching in a way is probably what I was born to do, really giving and being in a space with people in a very immediate and very caring way as well, because I'm really there for them, to give them some set exercises sometimes, but also some creative tasks and some ideas and some music. So it's been a really what I've done since the start of my freelance journey. And I felt I couldn't drop it to do my master's. I still needed to pay my rent and have an income, and also to be connected with my community at the place, mainly where I've been teaching, but also with other organizations across London. So it was quite challenging in the beginning of the year to commute to Chichester, to attend all of the classes on a Wednesday, come back to London, teach on the next day, class, teach on a Saturday. It was very, very busy. But then halfway through the school year, COVID hit. And in a way, I think it was a good thing for me, because it allowed me to refocus and say, look, you don't have to be running around from place to place every single day of the week. You can actually focus on your studies for now. The teaching will come back when it comes back. You can do a little bit of online teaching as well, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And that's probably my biggest lesson of the year 2020, I think, because I've been so keen to do so much all the time, all at the same time, that it's been really hard to let go of things and say, okay, that's not happening. All right. Oh, that's not happening either. Okay, breathe. It's fine. You can still continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your like I feel like you're a very optimist person, like
Mhm.
so that's really good quality to have. I think, yeah. I would ask you this question. You don't have to answer, but like if you would
Mhm.
want to, it's like, um, well, you were doing teaching and studies, but was the income enough? Because London is an expensive city. So I was thinking, how did you juggle that in a way?
Yeah, I think what is quite challenging with teaching, as in the kind of teaching that I've done, is that it's very dependent. So you start with a group in September, you teach every week, and then there's Christmas holidays, and for 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, your work stops because the school is not on, or the dance school is closed. And then January, all fine, you start back, you teach, and then comes the end of March, you've got Easter holidays. So again, unless you get a job in an Easter intensive, your work stops. And so it's been really tricky to manage because my income has been regular and fluctuating so much. Some months, nothing. Other months, decent, enough to pay my rent and basic things, but not huge because, as you know, I've been studying part-time the whole way through. So I've been quite lucky to have a little bit of support from my parents. It's been years since I've tried to kind of stop that and be like, no, I'm fine, don't give me money, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But they really understand that I need it, and I can't pretend that I'm fully independent financially, because I'm not, because it fluctuates so much. And also because I've been wanting to study and to improve my skills, I haven't been able to take on as much teaching. Also, maybe to mention that I've been very stubborn, and I've only ever wanted to work in the dance world. So either dance teaching jobs, or dance teaching assistant,
Mm.
or choreographer, or being paid for performances. But I've tried to stay away from anything else, just because I felt I wanted to put all of my energy and all of my time in sing and teaching and sharing dance.
Mm.
But that means that it is hard to find, and it is hard to have enough classes in a week that you can plan for them, and you have time to prepare and travel there and travel back, but also you're paid enough. Generally, you're only paid for the hour that you teach,
Mm.
but as you know, that involves the planning time, the commute time across London, that can be huge sometimes if you're traveling to the other end of the city, get back. So yeah, no, it has been fluctuating quite a lot, and it has not been enough consistently.
Mm. Thank you so much for being honest and so transparent. Like I'm glad that like you answered that question, because it is what it is. It is artist life. It's tough, but like because we believe in our art more than like anything, that we want to like not compromise in any such
Mm,
way. Like, yeah, like I completely understand that. I'm glad that your parents have been supportive as well with that journey,
mhm.
and if even financially or emotionally, and being there. I'm glad that you have had that support. That's very
Yeah.
nice.
But I must say as well that, there are grants out there, and there is help out there for those whose families might not have the means to support them. Like, I know, I'm thinking of a friend in particular who's really good, like amazing at finding all sorts of free opportunities, training programs for young people, and yeah, free courses often, but also support. So it can be that you find organizations that give you rehearsal space for free, or just give you a little bit, yeah, pay your rent. So I hope that it's fair to say that it is possible, even without relying on your family or people around you, to make it work and just find those pockets of money, find those grants and
Mm.
things that can help. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if people are wondering, they can go and watch the catch-up interview with Alicia's case, because she got a lot of bursaries in Southwest, so you can see how she applied for that and everything. So I'm just plugging that in because there was information there. So
Yeah.
so Corona happened, and you have started. Wait, before Corona, actually. Well, Corona. Let's say Corona. You were telling that your calling is teaching, and then I realized that like I did work with you in the Zoom performance, and I can definitely see that your calling is definitely teaching and directing, and I don't know what's the word for that. Is it like producing also, directing also, and layering and choreographing everything basically. I definitely feel like that's your calling because I definitely enjoyed your Questions in Motion, which was the piece which you directed and produced. Is it the produce the right word? I think yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess.
yeah, because like we discussed that, what kind of you thought, like you asked us what kind of choreographer, participant dynamic was that, and I feel it was very much like you were very open to our ideas, and even though you had set things, you were open to anything and everything, and it was very layered, um, intentional piece, and like it just didn't involve us, so it was not just a performance, it included audience as well, so it was very well structured. So yeah, like yeah, I like how your mind works in a way of like drafting things, like it's pretty cool. Do you want to say something about your Questions in Motion?
Yeah, maybe just really briefly. So that was not what I was expecting to do, obviously.
Yeah.
But to be honest, before Corona, I didn't really know what my practical would be for the dissertation. So I was very open. And then, yeah, then I guess taking classes on Zoom with our teachers at uni, but also other colleagues of mine, and watching festival totally online on Zoom in April just really inspired me. Something clicked in my mind. I was like, well, actually, yes, it's all possible to lead a warm up and lead a rehearsal and have a performance on Zoom. So that's how the idea came about. And then again, this sense of thinking of people that I would want to work with, contacting them, getting the team together. And it all unfolded quite easily in a way, because we didn't have to worry about, hiring rehearsal space or show space. We could just turn on our Zoom and
Yeah.
get together.
Yeah.
So in terms of making the accessible and yeah, being able to connect you guys in Chichester as well as the other dancers in Bristol and Reading and the musician and myself in London, it was a really, really nice way of bringing all of you together.
Yeah, it was definitely very collaborative, and everyone had their voice, and it was generally like I think one of my top favorite pieces to be in as well. Like I really enjoyed it, and it was very different. Like it was over Zoom. Like who would have thought? Um, love technology, love and hate relationship with technology. I'm glad I
Yeah,
didn't show unstable internet right now. Otherwise, it would have been
yeah.
interesting.
Oh gosh, that one rehearsal where you just disappeared and I was like, no, her connection is gone.
I was like, I'm sorry. Everything failed that day. Oh my God. Every bit of device failed that day. And I was genuinely like, and that day was Madison's was going to um, do her mirror thing. And I genuinely was looking forward. And it was in my living room. The mirror was set and everything. And I was like, everything. Like, I can't go. It's so bad. But it was fine. Like next day we did rehearse, and I'd had an experience of improvising with mirror as well, so I was glad. Yeah, it was pretty nice. Yeah. You said that you are working on a screen dance. Um, screen dance? Yeah. What is that
Yeah.
about?
So that's my assessment for
Ah,
Vicky's module, the site-specific dance course.
oh yeah.
And yeah, it's been a funny one. We literally only had 4 lectures dotted across the first term. And then we were like, okay, now we've got to find a site and find a dancer and just make a piece of site-specific dance
Yeah.
work. Down happened. So we were like, some of us on the course were like, well, my site is closed, I can't really access it right now. So some of us had to completely change their concept. But fortunately, the site that I wanted to work in was an art installation in a park, and park were fairly safe to work in. So I was like, okay, good. So I thought it was all fine, but then I started rehearsing in it, and then came on the rehearsal day thinking, you know, it was all accessible, all fine. Construction fences all around the piece, and I was like, what is this? And they carried out works there. So they did the whole, basically the floor used to be a bit muddy, and you know, it had been there for a long time. It used to be grass and it used to be all green and nice, but it had turned into mud. And so just when we were rehearsing on the site, they decided to change it all, remove all of the mud and put some nice gravel on top. But that took a week, and that meant that during that week, which was meant final week of rehearsals, me and the dancer had to rehearse around it using the trees as though they were the structure. And then we went to another park in South London with a sort of similar installation, but not exactly the same. So that was a bit stressful, but it all worked out. The works were finished just in time for us to film, and now we're just finishing the edits. So.
That's great. Yeah, I forgot about the body and site module. I think I'll probably do it there when I'll go back. I haven't even started. I'll probably submit late, but it is Corona times. Everything's fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. I think I would love to ask, like, who do you get inspired from? Because you're so optimist and everything. Like, what drives you? What is there someone who you look up to, or is like some vision which you would like to achieve? Like, what keeps you driven?
That's a really good question. I think the idea of the vision or the intention is something that made me cry very recently. I was in a tutorial with Yanaëlle talking about your questions in motion, and she was very positive, really enthusiastic about it. And then when she asked me about the intention and how I could dig deeper into that work, I didn't know what to say. I just started crying. And I think that's because I have a really strong sense of purpose and reason why I'm going for this career and doing it. But I can't articulate it. I can't say, well, this is my vision. It's that feeling that we were talking about of like going for things that I'm feeling really drawn towards, or going to work with people that I'm really inspired by. And that's it. That's the drive. At the moment, I'm not able to put in words very neatly. And it feels really challenging to kind of admit that I'm just kind of doing what I like to do and working with people that I find interesting, because quite often you need to be able to articulate that as an artist. You need to be, well, I'm making site-specific work that engages with people in the community because I believe in the value of public spaces and how communities can dance, not just professional dancers. So sometimes I'm like, well, what am I doing? My work is just a bit random. I don't have that strong, vision yet. But I have a feeling that it's going to come in the next few years. It's going to become clearer and clearer. So I guess what does drive me is having seen and having been with teachers, choreographers, artists who've just been in the room with me, and by just standing sometimes, like being there and having that amazing calm posture and the sense of like, you can tell that they're dancers because they're just standing there like that. And that has been so inspiring for me. That has been like, I want that posture at that age, or I like that.
Sure, they they would have faced the same struggles which we are facing right now, finding ourselves before. Maybe they're still confused. Like life, yet it's a journey. There's no like destination. Like this is where you reach, and this is what you are now. I think it keeps, like you said, it keeps developing. I think, yeah, I think we know that, but sometimes it's like a dark emotion. Suddenly you feel like, oh, but what, like, it's chaos. But I think it's like we know that it's a good chaos, but sometimes we just like get caught up in it and we're like, oh, we overthink it. Yeah. So I'm glad that you shared that as well, because like I said, like since I've met you, like the impression of you is always like you know what you're doing. You radiate that, what you are saying that you see in them. I feel like that you radiate that already. Like that's what I've got from you. Like that professional aura to you, to always asking questions and um, like I feel, I don't know, I get that impression that you know what you want. And
Mm.
even though you might be confused sometimes, but to me, like the aura you were talking about the teachers, I get that from you, and it's prominent. So yeah, it's very interesting to see other people's perspective about you, and then yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I guess like who am I to know this is for me and this is my intention? I think it's beyond me. It just kind
hmm
of comes to me and through me, and
yeah,
I just know that I need to go there, and I just know that I want to work with those people.
yeah,
But I feel like it's almost not my decision. It's something bigger or
yeah.
beyond me that's driving me there.
Oh, I love that you said that, because, like, I definitely get that, because with dance and parts, I feel like it's bigger than me, and that's just
Yeah.
I don't have a particular vision, but it's for me, it's like every week, that is my particular vision, which you like said, and like I definitely feel that the bigger purpose, and I think like yeah, this is your bigger purpose, and you're living that purpose, and I'm glad that you're keep living it, and striving and going forward, and I'm sure it would be like amazing, because I'm sure um like I'm excited for you to make work with music, and you are working with Michaela. Like I'm really excited for you to work with music and all, because it seems like you're something you always keep coming back to.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Um, yeah, I think last question which I would love to ask you would be, so what would you know tell your younger self, or these are like us, like artists and everyone else, like yeah, just what would you like to say to them? Yeah.
I think maybe I would go back to this idea of following your interests and following your intuition and really being true to that. Maybe not going, oh, this is an open call and I don't really like the topic, but maybe I'll still write an application. If the topic isn't for you, the topic maybe isn't for you at this point. And I would say, yeah, really be true to what you feel is right, what you feel you're driven towards. And then also a sense of taking one step at a time. I think that I've probably been a bit over ambitious a lot of the time in the past. And sometimes it's been great. Like sometimes it has taken me places where I really wanted to be, but in a way there is no rush, especially as a maker, as a choreographer. I feel that I've got years and years and years ahead of me to develop. Whereas perhaps I felt that pressure because I thought, oh, as a dancer, you've got to start really young, you've got to be successful really young, you've got to get into those companies, because if not, you get out of shape and you're too old. But actually, things come in time. And also, you'll be surprised, but often opportunities and things come much earlier than you would have thought. Like those teachings jobs that I was offered, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for it, but I really want to do it.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just going to do it. Okay, I'm just going to do it. And then it all worked out. But
yeah,
sometimes I was like, I'm not prepared. I'm not experienced
yeah,
enough. And just getting over that and accepting that things come in their own time, not necessarily in your own planned
yeah.
timeline, is really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I get from is like, you ask like, oh, now is not the right time. So when is the right time exactly? So you just go
Yeah.
for it. I think that's what makes me realize that, yeah, that which is very precious. Like, just like even, even if it's even if you have doubt about something, just going for it, what would be the worst that can happen, right? You would only learn from it, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's easier said than done when you are in the same situation. um but like, yeah, we get it, like, yeah, we all have been through that. Yeah, I think just trusting that and just going for it, like, yeah. Is there anything else which you would like to share today?
I guess just encouraging people to listen to more of what Dance in Parts has to offer, because
Oh.
I just listened to Nozomi's interview yesterday, and I was really fascinated by her journey and what she had to say. I have a feeling that you're going to get such a nice range of artists from a range of backgrounds, both amongst, the people that you're already connected with, but also further out and beyond. And I think that's the best resource, if we can all just stay connected and share those stories and share these things with each other. Then we'll all have a chance, because we'll all know where to go, who to talk to, how to go through the harder and the happier times as well. So I would say, yeah, let's keep the conversation going.
Oh, thank you. That just melted my heart. I wasn't expecting that at all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will mention as well that Carol didn't ask me to say this. This is just me
I was gonna
saying
say it's not paid
something.
promotion, guys. I have no money whatsoever. But yeah, it's the stories, and it's the experiences. It's that community thing, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
at the end, it's about community. Like for me, it's definitely about that community and to build that community and to share those things and support each other and guide each other to our purposes. And the industry is abundant, like the life is abundant. There's nothing like scarce. So and we can all guide each other to whatever our purposes are. So I think that's what my goal is, and that actually came from my heart. Even I'm thinking like, oh, where did that come from? But yeah, that's genuinely what I feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
quickly plug yourself, email if you want to, social media if you want to, company concentric, go on.
Well, okay, so easiest way to follow me is to hit Yanaëlle Dance on Instagram or on Facebook. So it's just in one word, my first name and then DANSE, dance in French. My website also is my full name, yanaellethiran.wordpress.com, and there's a contact page on there, and there's a little bit more about my own portfolio and Company Concentric's portfolio. The company website is in the making, so we're very excited about that.
Ooh.
But you can obviously follow company.concentric on Instagram and on Facebook, and check us out on Twitter as well if you'd like. That's at compconcentric, because we couldn't fit it all in. So yes, you can find the links as well from my personal feed to the company's account and vice versa.
Mm, amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sure people would be interested in your journey, and it's so inspiring. And thank you again for sharing your time and your energy and your experience and being vulnerable and honest and transparent. Like it was genuinely like um I'm out of words. I'm genuinely like grateful for you to be part of Dance and Parts and share your experience. Like, yeah, and believing in this platform as well. Yeah, so thank you so much.
And thank you for holding the space. Yeah, I would absolutely love it if we could have another one of these conversations in, 2, 3, 5 years, whenever, and just do a catch
Yes.
up then.
Yeah, and then you look back at the interview and you're like, look what all I did, or
Yeah.
what happened. Like, it's surprise. But I would love to do a catch-up interview as well, and I'm glad that you're open to it as well. And I'm sure people who would have watched this part of your journey would be blessed enough to see the other part of journey as well. And
Hmm.
yeah, this is so cool. I love it. All right, I'll say bye, and I'll stop recording, and then we can have a some talk, close talk. You can say
So,
bye to people.
bye. Thank you
Bye.
for having me.